I mean, the overall problem with Trump is really that he doesn't have any ideas. He doesn't have any like policies. He just wants to he wants to do one of these businesses. He wants to see which way the wind is blowing. He wants to like that's why he's not really a Republican. He never really was an actual Democrat. He doesn't have like policy prescriptions. Donald Trump just wants to do whatever it is that's going to garner him the most votes. He's a panderer, so he wants to do the thing that's going to garner the most interest, the most love, the most appreciation from the people that he thinks are going to vote for him. Actually, I'm going to want to watch this one here because this is a video that Woke sent me on Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord, feel free to join the Discord. There should be a link to the Discord. Hey, cat. Yep. Cat. Messing with me. And you can share videos, you can talk to people. We got a nice community going on in the Discord where people are having a good time, a great time, an unimaginably fantastic time. Oh, push the wrong button. Let's see if I can get you guys a link. This is one that Woke sent me, so let's watch this. Let's get started with some of this stuff.
So the MAGA fan base is mad after Donald Trump just made a stunning admission to NBC News during an interview he did right before taking the stage in Potterville, Michigan for a disastrous rally. I want to break all of that down, but what he said has MAGA supporters so mad that one tweeted out, "Don't ever again try to bully me into voting for this putz." And I see a lot of reactions.
I have no idea what this is even about.
Like this in the replies of this video.
All right,
Donald Trump, before I played that, Donald Trump took the stage and began to attack the journalist that questioned him on abortion.
She's incompetent. She can't do an interview? It's been months. She can't. I just did an interview backstage. She was a very terrible person, but she was okay, actually. NBC fake news.
NBC fake news.
Dude, just the cadence of how he speaks. Not even just the cadence. It's like the repetition of what he says, right? It's like he's only got like 6 words that he uses over and over again. I also love the fact that ivermectin is up here. And I pointed this out before. It's really strange. It's really strange that the MAGA crowd both believes that COVID isn't real and it's not like anything that you should be worried about. Like they literally think that COVID is like, you know, like the flu or whatever it is. But then at the exact same time, they're pushing ivermectin on their news channels. Like this is like the weirdness of MAGA and why like I can never get to a point where I'll ever really understand the brain of the MAGA cult member. That both at the same time, COVID, not scary, but also COVID, here's some medicine for it. It's some of the strangest stuff I've ever seen in my life. I've got to, here, let me get rid of that. I don't want that thing beeping in the background the whole time. We're going to be doing some mock drafts today, too, because I need to get ready for my mock draft on Monday.
I just want to remind you, VP Harris is doing an interview tonight with CNN, and I'm sure she's going to kill it. Her and Tim Walsh will be on CNN. But Donald Trump immediately deflects and tries to attack the journalist. It reminds me of what Mike Lindell did to me. He came on stage at a Trump rally and said, I just got attacked by a journalist when I didn't attack him. But let's play this clip of Donald Trump flip-flopping on one of his key issues, something that he has talked about many times in the past, abortion. He just completely flip-flopped from, let's leave it up to the states, I'm the one that overturned Roe v. Wade, to saying this.
You are a resident of, there's an abortion-related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6-week is too short. It has to be more.
Yeah, and he just flip-flopped on that. Like, this is like I don't have a problem with people changing their opinions on things, obviously. But this is one of those things that, like, it seems like something that it would take you much longer to change your opinion on something. Like something like a 6-week ban is a pretty like high level like decision to make, like something that takes a lot of thought and you know, perhaps a large amount of evidence to change your opinion on. And this is obviously him leaning back towards the MAGA right and the religious right. And I think this is actually a big mistake on his part. I think that this is doubling down on the dumb shit that they did in 2022. And I applaud that he is now pushing his way back over to the side of the 6-week ban after he made these comments, obviously. Because good. That's less votes for you. And I actually, like, to this point, still believe that Donald Trump is 100% sabotaging himself in the hopes to claim that the victory that is had by Kamala Harris in 2024 was so large as to be unbelievable, and so I think I think he is legitimately now setting himself up for a loss that he can claim was a stolen election.
Time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I'm voting that I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. Look.
That sounds like somebody who wants to save their ass, who knows that the Republican Party is bleeding the women vote, the suburban women vote, the vote of women all across the country. Donald Trump uses his typical...
Yeah, Jeremy, I hear you. Of course, my poll answer was everything legal, but top classes should have responsibility in circumstances with hallucinations. Like, I mean, my thing with with marijuana being legal in California, a lot of people have taken that to mean like you can smoke it in public and stuff like that, and it's not true. Like, I mean, you can smoke it in like certain areas, but it's just like anything. Like, you're not supposed to just like walk down the sidewalk smoking a joint. It's just like alcohol. You're not allowed to like just walk down the street drinking alcohol either. Like, my point of view with drugs and my answer to the poll question today is I do believe that drugs should be legal, but not for the reasons I think most people understand it. I want drugs to be legal for the fact that I do not think that people should be going to prison for the use of drugs. I think that if we're going to do anything, we should be trying to rehab people. Because there is no evidence, no studies, no statistics that suggest in any way, shape, or form that incarcerating people in any way helps them to become less of drug addicts. And in fact, when I was talking to John Pedora, who... yeah, the door's open. Go. Fucking cat. That when I was talking to John Pedora... he had actually been, when he was younger, arrested for opiates because he was addicted to opiates from, I believe, a car crash is what it was. And he said, okay, good. Like, when I go to jail, I'm going to have this opportunity to no longer be able to purchase drugs, and therefore I will be able to maybe get clean during this time. And he said one of the most eye-opening moments of his time there was when he first was put in the jail cell, in the holding cells, that people were getting drugs out, smashing them up, and snorting them in the jail cell. And, being a person that comes from a pretty adverse background, I can tell you that, like, most people that go to jail for drug offenses actually get out and become worse criminals because of that. So, I mean, I'm all for regulation. That's really what I'm for. I think that it should be legalized and it should be regulated, and there should be... Sorry, my voice isn't quite back to what it needs to be. It should be back to a point where drugs are regulated, and there should still be repercussions for, just like DUIs, right? There should be repercussions for that, just like there should be repercussions for people that, like, you're not allowed to do or smoke drugs in public. Unless it's like some kind of corned down off area, like I think the State Fair in Sacramento this year had a place where people could go and smoke. That's kind of how I feel about those things. What about prescription medications that are not prescribed by doctors? That's actually a really good question. Should prescription drugs that are not prescribed by doctors be legal? I haven't actually really thought about that, AJ. I guess if just off the top of my head, the first thing I would say is that having the ability to regulate those is probably the most important thing. Like, they're available to people, which is important because they need them. Certain people do actually need those painkillers. I mean, that's what they're created for. I know they've been abused. But I think in the current form of doctors prescribing them is probably the most appropriate place to start. But we need to make sure that doctors aren't, obviously doing what they did with oxycodone and stuff like that. Cat, man. Oh, the hair is in the air. As though my voice wasn't bad enough, but now there's cat hair floating through the air. I'm dying. Thanks, cat. So, I mean, I guess where I would start with that, but that's a really good question, and that's something that I should look into and probably maybe form a better opinion on, a more educated opinion on, but I guess the first place I would start would be with the fact that it is legal. It is regulated. Doctors do prescribe them, but obviously some doctors, at least at certain points with oxycodone, were prescribing them for profit, and that's obviously, in my opinion, not a good thing. So that's a really good question. I promise to do a little bit more work on that, and I'll get back to you on it. How about MDMA was given at married couples in therapy, which was ahead of it all. So like, I 100% am for like any type of drug that tends to show verifiable scientific results. Not just do your research, bro, or just trust me, bro, kind of bullshit. I believe it's like psilocybin was shown to like have some real like positive effects on soldiers that had PTSD. I could be wrong about that. Please don't quote me. But I do believe that that's true. And if that were true, like, you know, when it comes to stuff like that, I'm completely open to that. I think it's like really strange that we have like certain subsets of narcotics or drugs that we refuse to act like they have any like positive effects, while we obviously prescribe, you know, multitudes of drugs to people that we know have like really super adverse side effects, but also have some very positive effects when used appropriately. And we all know that's because of money in pharmaceuticals. And I've said this before. I think this is something that's really like, it's insane to me. It's insane to me that we can't get on the same level with each other here. Is that like one of the things I think all of us agree on, whether you're on the left or right, or you're like a doomer conspiracy theorist, is that incentivizing, pharmaceuticals to, you know, make profits instead of helping them to, you know, make enough money to be able to research new drugs, enough money and enough incentivization for competition to create new things and stuff like that. But also make sure that we're like holding them accountable for the times when they obviously do things that are like outside of those areas and are intentionally trying to profit off of people's addiction problems. Like, I can't understand why this isn't something that we all agree on. And unfortunately, I do know why we don't agree on that. And that's because some of us believe that capitalism and the way that we create competition through incentivization is the issue. Whereas the other side of that, the doomer conspiracies theorist side of it is that like it's really like this like crazy idea that they're gonna like they're trying to control you and they're experimenting on you and they're testing products on people and stuff like that. And it's like it's hard to get. It's really bad. It sucks because we have this thing that we agree on, that money in pharmaceuticals, incentivization to a certain point is bad. But we can't agree on the root cause of it. And so we end up in these like circular arguments that, you know, like we never all vote the same because of that. And that's really unfortunate. But I think that there is something there for that. I do believe that like MDMA for like married couples, if it shows studyable, verifiable, quantifiable results, I think that I believe, you know, one of the things that I've said about Trump that I thought was like something that was a good thing that he did was working towards the right to try. I believe that every human being should have the right to say in their lives that if they want something because they're gonna, you know, they're at end of life or they have an incurable disease, that if they want to try like experimental medications and stuff like that, that should be their. They should have the right to do that. And the other side of that, obviously, is the knowing that certain pharmaceutical companies will put out things where they cut corners and stuff like that. And at that point, use you as their experiment. That's like all understandable, but it should be up to a person, in my opinion, to decide whether or not. So if you're like a married couple and you want to try MDMA, I don't see any reason that a married couple shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Well, salesman-like tactics. I want more weeks, many more
guinea
weeks.
pig.
I'm voting
Thank
that
you,
I am
Renee.
going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. Look, just so you understand, everybody wanted Roe v. Wade terminated for years.
Wrong.
50.
Yeah, and see, I hate that he continues to repeat this claim that everybody wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. It was pretty well established. I mean, for something like 10 or 20 years, there are polls showing that consistently 65 to 70% of all people thought Roe v. Wade was perfectly fine the way it was. And an even higher percentage of people believed that the rights that Roe v. Wade protected should still be there even without Roe v. Wade. Like, this is the kind of stuff that like just drives me nuts because it's verifiably untrue, and all you have to do is like do it like a really quick Google search to see if it's true or not, and people will continue to like repeat this over and over again, and it drives me fucking nuts.
2 years, I got it done. They wanted to go back to the states. Exceptions are very important for me, for Ronald Reagan, for others that have navigated this very, very interesting and difficult path. Our country's been torn apart by Roe v. Wade for years, And if you go back 10 years, 15 years, all they wanted to do is they wanted it back in the states. They didn't want it to be in the federal government.
That's not true. But something Jeremy just said made me laugh about. Head shops, I remember my family called it that because something mentioned that seemed drug tango or taboo. They booted me because I used to say bong instead of water pipe. I remember those days, and it was always one of the weirdest situations because you would walk into a head shop, into a pipe shop, and you would have to say, I want that water pipe. And I also was actually kicked out of a head shop when I was probably I think 20 or 22, and it was fucking absurd because I shit you not, this was like a slash sex shop slash pipe shop, and there's all these bongs everywhere you can see. That's right, we can say it now, we're free. There's bongs everywhere you can see, and then there's like literal dildos on the walls. And I remember saying to this woman behind, I was like, hey, can I see that blunt wrapper? And she said, you're not allowed to say blunt. And I'm like, it says blunt on the package. And she's like, I'm sorry, but these are tobacco papers. And I was like, whatever, can I just see one of those? So I take a look at it, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I was like, hey, can I see that bong over there? And she goes, that's it. We're done here. And I'm me, so I like openly laugh at people. This is one of my issues, is that like I don't have a real strong control on my reactions with people, right? Like, I'm a pretty honest person, so I don't give a fuck whether or not people know what I'm thinking or they know how I'm feeling about stuff. The only time that I like attempt to be better about that is when I'm in leadership roles, and I know that like certain things have to be like controlled to make sure that everybody stays calm. But for the most part, I'm very like open about my reactions, and I like openly laughed at this lady, and she was like, "That's it." And they escorted me out. And that's why, like, when, like, the conspiracy theorizers and stuff, they're like, remember when all this stuff happened? And I'm like, yeah, we get better. That's the point. Progress. You get better. Oh, man. I think we've all been kicked out of a bong shop, Rocket. It doesn't matter whether you're left, right, independent, progressive, libertarian. You've all been kicked out of a bong shop.
Nobody wanted that. Donald Trump is now trying to cover his ass. And can I point out that this Axios article does a pretty good job of calling him out.
Like I said, there's places we can all agree.
Thursday that an abortion limit banning the procedure after 6 weeks is too short. Trump, who has long boasted that he was the one who, quote, was able to kill Roe v. Wade,
but the government
has
made it free in
on his
California,
abortion stance, campaigning with a leave it to the states
just
approach.
Takes him longer than
now
other
that he's
people.
left it up to the states, he is trying to
backtrack.
Although he once indicated he favored a national abortion ban, the 2024 GOP presidential candidate announced in April that he believes the issue should be left up to the states to decide, and now a few months later he's saying that what the decisions the states are making, he doesn't like those decisions. So Donald Trump cannot take an actual stand on abortion, and
this is the problem with Trump. I mean, the overall problem with Trump is really that he doesn't have any ideas. He doesn't have any like policies. He just wants to he wants to do one of these businesses. He wants to see which way the wind is blowing. He wants to, like, that's why he's not really a Republican. He never really was an actual Democrat. He doesn't have like policy prescriptions. Donald Trump just wants to do whatever he thinks most people that are not, when I say most people, I mean most of the people that are willing to vote for him. Donald Trump just wants to do whatever it is that's going to garner him the most votes. And to be honest, it's not just votes. It's also he's a panderer. So he wants to do the thing that's going to garner the most interest, the most love, the most appreciation from the people that he thinks are going to vote for him. That's why he has like a very like blasé attitude towards people that like he doesn't like, right? Like was it Kemp from Georgia? Kemp from Georgia, he was like, I hate him, he's disgusting, he's the worst governor ever, he sucks, all of these things. And then Kemp comes out, he realizes he needs Georgia. People in Georgia are saying things like, you're shooting yourself in the foot, you're going to like end up losing Georgia because you're shooting on a popular governor. And all of a sudden Trump is saying things like, Kemp is a really good governor, everybody should vote for him, he's actually absolutely awesome. And the thing about that is if that was more strategic, if he knew, if he was a smarter person, I would be better able to accept, because politics is a very dirty game. It is a dirty game. People do dirty things, whether it's on the left or right or whoever. It doesn't matter. I just saw fucking dipshit fucking, God damn it, the Cornel West. Cornel West now deciding he wants to join the grifting off the COVID thing. It's like, it doesn't matter how much like respect you have for a person, you automatically like lose a certain proportion of it once they get into politics and start playing the game. But the thing about Trump is Trump doesn't even have the excuse that he's just playing the game. A lot of the things that Trump does, he does because he's a gigantic fucking child. He doesn't like just like decide that he's, you know, going to shit on Kemp because he thinks strategically that's a good idea. He does it because he got his feelings hurt. His feelings got hurt by the fact that Kemp didn't overturn the election in Georgia, which he didn't even have the power to do so. But he wanted him to. He wanted him to so bad. And he's such a child, and he doesn't understand anything in politics. So he thinks that people should be able to do things that they legitimately can't actually do. And then when they say, hey, I can't do that, I'm sorry, I'm a Republican, I literally would do whatever it takes to keep a Republican president in power, but I can't do this one thing. Donald Trump gets really mad and acts like an immature child, and then takes it out on him verbally and shits on him and stuff until somebody like comes to him and goes, you've got to stop. You've got to stop. But even then, Brian Kemp had to actually like come out and be like, I do support Trump. I want everybody to understand that, before Trump was willing to come out and be like, okay, I do support Brian Kemp. It's insane. It's just one of those things that I just wish that he would. Trump didn't give any. What are you talking about? He gave freedoms back to the states. Like, give me a policy where he gave freedoms back to the states so that way I could. Like, my problem with most of what you guys say is you guys make blanket statements and then you don't actually have any type of, like, policy or legislation to back it up.
Accuses VP Harris of flip-flopping over a 5-year period after getting experience.
Just so I'm clear, I do not believe that abortion is something that the state should decide. It affects too many people. Like states, if you're talking about like states' rights for abortion, if a place like Texas can say things like, you can't cross our borders, you can't leave our state as a citizen of Texas to go get an abortion in a different state, that's completely illegitimate in my opinion, and that's why it has to be a federal law, not a state's law.
As the VP. Now let's move on to the speech that Donald Trump did after the interview in Potterville, Michigan, where he's losing his mind, he's gripping the podium, he's visibly old. Listen to this clip of him saying,
Renee, you want a good clip of that? Or a good thing of that? Like, if I can find it, I'll grab it for you. There was the guy from the Lincoln Project went on PBD's show about a year ago. And Destiny, I just saw a clip of Destiny watching this. He went on the PBD show and argued with PBD's little dipshit that hangs out with him. Not Adam. Adam's okay. His little like weirdo wannabe fake ass comedian friend. Him and the Lincoln Project argue about a bunch of stuff. And one of the things that he points out is that we literally, America, are so goddamn free. We are free. We have so many freedoms that we literally let a dude that tried to commit treason still run for president. That's like the insanity, the hypocrisy of the American people when they talk about not having freedoms. People are taking away our freedoms. Literally, a dude tried to overthrow the legitimate electoral process, and we're like, look, man, we don't like that you did it. We don't think you should have done that. That's some bullshit, but we're still going to let you run. That's insanity. That's how far, like, and that, in my opinion, like I said, I think it's a good thing. I'm 100% willing to let Donald Trump run. And I've said this before to you guys. The reason I say that is because if there is enough dumbass people, if there is enough conspiracy-minded, mentally ill people in our country, that they would elect a dude that tried to overturn the legitimate results of an election after it was investigated down to like the nitty, goddamn gritty, okay? If there's enough people in this country, then I want to know that shit. I want to see it. I want to understand that that's who lives in our countries so I can prepare for that shit.
Again, that the civilian Medal of Freedom is better than the Medal of Honor.
What up, he hurts?
I wouldn't have done what he
I saw
did.
your playlist. I'm gonna check it out today.
What he did.
What a spiking.
I always say there are two.
Yeah, I thought I'd get on
awards,
and just mess
the
around
Medal of
today.
Honor, and
I'm gonna try to do this
oftentimes
more often. Try to be on a little bit
posthumously
longer and
where,
stuff.
You know, they're not.
There's no soccer games for me to go
Oftentimes
to.
They've died in battle and they're getting the award, and then you have the civilian version, the Presidential Medal. And I always say I'd rather get the Presidential Medal because the guys that came in, other than you and a few others, oftentimes they've suffered greatly, right? They've suffered greatly, or they're not around.
He's just not smart enough to understand why that's bad. That's the problem. Is that Donald Trump, people give him way too much credit for being intelligent. He's not intelligent. He's not very smart at all. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, you could show me an IQ test, which you can't. You could show me that he's related to his uncle at MIT. Doesn't matter. You could do all of these things for me, but all I have to do is watch Donald Trump talk to tell you that he's not smart enough to be able to even explain what he means. Like, if I'm Donald Trump at this point and somebody says to me, hey, you said something about our troops that seems to be demeaning. You're saying that the Medal of Honor that you give to troops is not as good as the ones that you give to civilians, and your apparent excuse for why you do this is because you said that, well, at least they didn't get injured to get the medal. Like, as a whole, if you were to say that to me, I go, oh, shit. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. And I would say, let me be 100% clear with you. Every single soldier that has ever gotten the Medal of Honor deserves an honor that is higher than any individual citizen in our society that has received it. Those people that I'm talking about, I'm saying they're lucky. They didn't have to go through as much. But he can't do that. That's why he's his own worst enemy, because he's a moron. And the fact that people think that, and this is why they defend him, but they think they have to defend him, because if they admit that he's a moron, then they have to admit that he is not capable of being the president of the United States of America. That's what it comes down to. You got to be able to see the thought process. And I can see the thought process. And I can tell you that people are going to continue to defend this shit. Because if they admit that he's too dumb to even explain his own thoughts, then he can't be the president of the United States of America. Period.
I mean, he's just saying the same thing, but trying to cushion it, but he says it with a lot of dismissiveness. Do you hear the dismissiveness in his voice when he's talking about people
Reverend.
who have been wounded?
I have a nephew at MIT and his brother has Down syndrome.
Donald Trump has said things about wounded soldiers in the past. I mean, we know
73 sounds high to me.
The fact that he's called soldiers losers and suckers is only reinforced when Donald Trump goes on stage and undermines the lived experiences of soldiers. And J.D. Vance likes to do that too. J.D. Vance learns from Daddy Trump.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is, like I said, here's my biggest problem with this is, like, as a leader, you have to admit when you're wrong. You have to be able to say, you have to be clear about admitting that you're wrong too. So when a person comes to you and says, hey, can you see why people would take this in the wrong way? Because you said these two things, and obviously just by the way you said them, it seems as though you're saying this thing. Like, that's the easiest out. Like, somebody saying that to you, right? Like, they're giving you an out. And he can't do it. He can't go, you know what? You're right. I said that in a really poor way, and I can understand why certain people would think that that's what I meant, but let me just explain to you in the most clear terms I possibly can. That is not what I meant. I would never demean the soldiers of our nation. I am so sorry that anybody thought that that's what I was saying. Now let me go ahead and explain to you better what I meant to say. But he can't do that because he's a moron.
Here's Trump blatantly lying and saying that there were multiple trans women boxing in the Olympics, just trying to rile the crowd up on the most dumb culture war issues.
Somebody that wants men in women's sports. You see the boxing in the Olympics? Two transitioned people. They transition.
See, and this is his crowd. So when we talk about Amin Khalif and we talk about, I forgot, U10, I think is the Asian woman that was the boxer. I said this when it happened. I know nothing about these women's genitalia. I know nothing about these women's chromosomes. I know nothing except for that they were allowed to box under the rules of the Olympics. And for me to even attempt to either confirm or deny the gender of these two women is absurd. And for some goddamn reason, people have gotten, not just Americans, but people across the world have gotten to a point that they have so much hubris in their own opinion that they're like, I can tell you for sure that's a man. Can you, mother? Can you? That is insane that you have that level of confidence about somebody that you learned something about 3 hours ago. Somebody once asked me, I was on stream with a person named Ninetales, with my friend Angela, and they asked me a question. They said, if you were to say, if someone were to say to you that they could change their gender on a birth certificate, would you be okay with that? And would you be okay with recognizing their gender? And I said, gender to me is a lot like, it's a lot like a pregnant woman. If I see a woman and she's got some weight up front, if she's carrying a bit of a belly, at no point in my life have I ever felt comfortable walking up to a woman like that and saying, oh, how far along are you? Are you going to have the baby soon? Because that's the dumbest thing you can do. You're assuming something with not even the most basic level of information. It's a good way to get slapped. Because there's plenty of women out there, unfortunately, that get comments from not just men, but other women in that area that are highly offensive. They're completely unnecessary. Do you need to make that comment? No, you don't. Can you just shut the fuck up and keep your opinion to yourself? Yes, you can. And that's the way that I look at gender. If I look at a person and I go, that looks like a woman to me, I'm going to assume it's a woman. If I look at a person and I'm like, that doesn't look like a woman to me, I'm not going to walk up and go, hey, I don't think you're a woman. I'm going to leave that to the people that have some concern about that. It ain't going to be me, guys. And by the way, don't ask women if they're pregnant. If you don't have some skin in that game, if you don't have a legitimate reason for asking that question, if you ain't the dude that slept with that woman 7 months ago, don't ask some random ass woman if she's pregnant. Jesus Christ. People are so strange. People are so strange.
From men to women, did you see?
Yeah, I remember
Fighting
Pat
a
from
young,
SNL.
beautiful Italian boxer, top boxer. They thought big things from her. And then, bing, a left jab, just a jab. She go, whoa, what? I just got...
This dude is...
Dude, I like that. Hold on. Sorry, Adam. We got to go back. This story is amazing. The way he tells this story, he's like a 6-year-old. I shit you not.
They thought big things from her. And then, bing, a left jab, just a jab. She go, whoa. What?
Whoa.
I just got
This dude is losing his mind. Everything he's saying is...
He said, she go, whoa. She go, whoa.
false. That did not happen. They were not two transitioned boxers or whatever he said. And this is why Trump supporters completely overestimate the amount of trans people that are in America. One of my first ever viral clips of me and a Trump supporter was a Trump supporter saying that 20% of Americans were trans.
Well, this is my thing, man, Jeremy. And you know this. This is why I'm never going to be a popular figure, is because I'm the type of person, I really do believe that, like, you know, you can make fun of transgender people. You can make fun of marginalized communities. You can make fun of white people. You can make fun of women. You can make fun of men. But it's got to be done in a right way, right? Like, it's got to be funny. It can't be just to be hurtful. It can't be for applause. It can't be, you know, like, it has to be funny. And I truly believe that. That's why the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost of this channel is George Carlin, Bill Burr, and Jon Stewart. Because I truly believe George Carlin would have never picked a side. George Carlin would have always been willing to criticize whoever needed to be criticized. Now, he criticized conservatives a lot more, and that's because most of the conservatives, at least of his day, and probably the ones of our day, were people that deserve criticism because they talk about wanting freedom and then they try to inhibit the freedom of people that they disagree with. Now, you know, I got Bill Burr in that trinity because I like Bill Burr. I like that Bill Burr does the same thing, that he's just going to say what's on his mind. And sometimes people on the left are going to hear the words that Bill Burr says and say, well, I don't really like that. I don't agree with that. And he's going to say, well, you don't have to agree with everything that I say. And then I have Jon Stewart in that trinity because I believe you have to have empathy. I believe you have to care. And I think that really makes, you know, for a trinity of people that represent all the values that I represent. And that is that I do think that you can make jokes about anybody and everybody. I love people making jokes about me. I like self-depreciating humor. I've grown up with people making fun of gingers and not having souls and being angry and all that shit's true. And I'm okay with all that. I love all that stuff, man. But, you know, like, there's a time and a place for it. And, you know, a lot of this stuff, I've been watching, like, some right-wing humor, right? Like, some right-wing comedy shows, right-wing movies, right-wing stand-up. And it's all just, like, sad and hateful. It's not funny. It doesn't make you want to laugh. It makes you want to be like, yeah, fuck that LGBT person. Hell yeah. And it's like, well, that's not fun. Like, it's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy your time there, you know? So I think I'm always going to end up in that area.